Introducing a whole new way to save from Xfinity. Get Xfinity Internet with unlimited data, Wi-Fi equipment, and a free streaming box included with a 2-year rate guarantee and no contract. All for just $30 per month when you add an Xfinity mobile plan. Switch today.
This is Dion from the Preps KC studio, powered by Xfinity Internet, the fastest internet with multi-gig speeds to the most homes. And I can attest that myself. We now have Xfinity Internet, and it helps bring in Brock Bolt from Fort Osage. We start the Suburban Red Virtual Media Day. And Coach, first year we've done this. And, we did the Zoom interviews all over the pandemic, and then we did the radio show by Zoom. And I think this is a great way for people to kind of see the coaches and hear what they have to say. And you guys are coming off a run to the semifinals, so close to a state championship appearance. And you bring back a lot of players off that team, and this is really a good group. I'm assuming you are very excited about this year.
We are. I'm also a little nervous. You're really – you know who you lose, but you don't know what you lose until you step out there that week one. Our kids have done a great job, but I know we lost a lot of great leadership and players last year. We do have a pretty good foundation to start from. So, yeah, there's a lot of excitement around the program. Still a lot of nerves, though.
Well, and you start out week one with Grain Valley, a team you beat in the playoffs. The last time they played was against you. And Coach Alley does a great job over there. Is this a good test for you guys right out of the box?
It is, and it's becoming a real good rivalry too, I think, with the proximity and kids knowing each other, playing against each other growing up. Coach Alley, yeah, he's going to have them ready to play, and I'm sure they've been thinking about this for a while now.
Well, tell me this. As you get ready, you bring back Lorenzo Fenner and your quarterback and some really good players. What has been the focus this summer as you come out of a team that was close to a state championship to go into this year?
Just we focused that we did some different things last year, and we worked harder last year than we ever have, but it still wasn't enough. So taking it to that next level and finishing this year.
I'm assuming there was some motivation coming off that tough loss. I mean, you guys were getting ready to go in for a touchdown. For those who didn't watch it, you could see physically you guys take over that game in the second half, and you were leaning on them, and they couldn't stop the running game, and then you come real close there, and then it got out of hand there a little bit at the end. But yeah, I'm assuming there was some definite motivation to get right back in the weight room in January.
That was a rough one to get over for all of us, kids, coaches, everyone. Like you said, we felt like we had it right there and let it slip. So that has been a lot of motivation, knowing you were that close and let it get away. We feel like we gave it away, and we don't want to do that again. So we've been talking about that, finishing this year, doing things just a little bit better, paying attention to small details a little more. But, yeah, that one did not sit well.
Is there one side of the ball or position group that has really taken some big steps forward for you this year that you're excited about?
I don't know that they've taken big steps forward because they were really good last year. Our defensive line, we returned all three of them up front, and they set the tone, and we're playing some younger guys behind them. But if you're going to start some younger linebackers, there's a great place to start is a good defensive line. And I'm real excited to see what our defensive line does this year.
They do a fantastic job. And I know the defense you run of keeping those linebackers clean. That's what you want. You want those linebackers running the ball, and having that experience up front's got to be great.
It is. And it's helping out those young guys back behind, knowing that, hey, we can make some mistakes. Now I got a couple older safeties behind them to clean up any of their mistakes too. So we're trying to protect them on both sides.
Well, Coach, it should be a fantastic year. Good luck, and we appreciate you taking time with us.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate all you do for high school football and the coverage you give us.
This is Dion Clisso in the Preps KC studio, powered by Xfinity Internet. Count on a reliable connection for all your devices, even when everyone's online. And this great audio and video is brought to you by Xfinity. And we bring in North Kansas City coach Leon Douglas as we continue our virtual media days. And Coach, a little conference shakeup a little bit with going to 5 divisions. I didn't know how I'd like it at first. I kind of really like it a lot now. I think that just talked to Coach Trotter over at St. Joe, and he said a lot more apples to apples. He's excited, to play you guys. I know that. And there's your conference really has a lot of teams that are really a lot like each other and really are going to provide you good competition.
For sure. I think that's something that we had in the past where when you looked up and you saw, a Truman, a Crispin, a Fort Osage, even Raytown, you always felt like, you had a shot to really go and compete at a high level in football. But, I think it's easy to think of things just in context of football. But I think overall, those pairings and those groupings benefit the other sports as well. You know what I mean? Because when you talk about just the demographics in the different communities that the Suburban Conference serves, some of them are very similar, some of them are very distinct from each other. And I think for us, the one we're in, I feel great about it in regards to playing people that they're experiencing similar experiences with their student athletes, their parents, and their community.
Well, for you guys, you kind of been what Mizzou was there for a while with the D lineman. You guys are kind of D lineman high school right now. Bring back another good group. How is that group anchoring your squad? And we'll start on the defensive side. How enjoyable has that group been, and how much good work have they put in this summer?
It's been awesome. Something that I didn't do last year that I tried to do this year. I separated them, meaning I just didn't always let them play together because I think at times, they're tough to deal with in such a very, unique way. And in the summer, you're not scheming against yourself. You're just running base stuff, trying to get an understanding of what the kids can do and what, what we can do. And so separating them and breaking them up kind of allow others to kind of step up. I'm very excited to see what a guy like Gerald Lewis does for us. He's been a young man that, he's been on the cusp these last few years. He got an opportunity this summer, and just really took it and ran with it. He's a young man that can play inside or outside. I'd expect that he'll be a great addition to that group as far as, being recognized by others for his efforts.
Offensively, what are you guys going to look like this year, and what has you excited?
We are going to do our best to be balanced and really take advantage of the talent we have. I think when you look at, some of our struggles last year, we just struggle being consistent. 1 week we would run the ball great, next week we would throw the ball great, next week we wouldn't do either great. But I think moving forward, just, leaning on that identity of we want to be physical. So I think everything with us starts with our offensive line. It starts with the run game. Our offensive line is coming together quite nice. We got some young men that have some size and some girth to them. Jermaine House is a back that has a ton of potential. He's had some great games last year. I was just visiting with him just yesterday, thinking about some of the stuff he's had to overcome personally just to be a starting running back at North Kansas City High School. And so I just encouraged him and pushed him to finish it. You know what I mean? Go out, make the most of every opportunity you're given, and just showcase your talent to your best abilities.
Well, the one thing it's been great to see the last 5, 6, 7 years of your tenure, there really hadn't been too much of a step back. I mean, you guys have been really consistent and building that consistency just in outcome in terms of wins and losses. Do you see what has been the key for that? I mean, that stability is one thing. You've had a good coaching staff and you've done a good job, but the kids have really bought into what you're doing. And it seems like every year, like I said, you're just, you graduate a ton of good players, but there's kids ready to come in and play the same way.
I think at the end of the day, you want to create a culture that the kids can take and use in life. You know what I mean? Something that they can really use to strategize, to carve out a solid, positive contribution to society. You know what I mean? And so being that we want to work, we want our efforts to dictate our success. We want to take the stairs. We really want to grind to the point that we can shape our futures. That's something I'm big on. Like I really don't like handouts just for our kids. I don't want the crutch nature for our kids to be dependent upon anything outside of them and their efforts and their families. So Just staying with that model, taking our success and taking responsibility for that success in our hands and not making excuses. I think that's bode well for us here lately. I think you look at our last two cycles, and we didn't have the wins that we had the previous 2 seasons, but I mean, in reality, you look at it, we played every team pretty tough. It was a different clientele, as well as an opportunity to showcase that we are even still in transition to where we can become one of the more dominant and prominent programs in the area.
Well, Coach, it should be a fantastic season. Good luck, and we appreciate you taking time with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This is Dion Clisso from the Preps KC studio, powered by Xfinity Internet, the fastest internet with multi-gig speeds to the most homes. And welcome back in the studio. We welcome in Oak Park coach Ken Clemens. And Coach, welcome to our virtual media days that we've been doing, and a lot of interviews back to back to back, and a lot of good coaches. And there's a lot of optimism, as you know, as we come out of the 2 years of the pandemic. This feels like our first normal year in a while, and everybody's just talking football, which is great. How excited are you about your team?
We've had a lot of fun and made a lot of progress over the summer. I think we've got both probably the most experienced team that I've coached and maybe the youngest team that I've coached. So we've got, I think things are really looking up for the next 3 years at least.
Well, you lose an important piece. Your son, Ty Clemens, he graduated, had a fantastic senior year for you, playing quarterback. But offensively, what are you guys going to look like this year, and who do you expect to make big impacts?
Well, we return our two top rushers, and we return our two top receivers, and we return our full offensive line minus one kid. So we're at 8 returning starters with that group. So they're really experienced and accomplished kids, and they're also young. Only 3 of our starters will be seniors. So we're going to go with start the season off with Aiden Hinkle at quarterback, who was a slot receiver for us last year as a sophomore, and he's a top-notch baseball player, and I think he's gonna make a pretty good name for himself as a football player this year as well.
Defensively, how's that looking for you?
On the defensive side of the ball, it's very similar in terms of, we're going to start 8 kids who have been starting football players for us. But again, we only are going to have 3 seniors on defense. So we're 3 seniors on offense, 3 seniors on defense, but 8 returning starters on both sides as well. So it's kind of an unusual situation. And the big picture, our sophomore class is just exceptional. They won as 8th graders. They won the city Suburban championships, which is a neat little thing that the middle schools are doing. But do you know about that?
I've heard a little bit about that. That's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, you got to look into that. It's really a neat deal. But so this group was really successful in that, and they're buttressed by a pretty good group, a couple of groups above them. So we're looking to be improved, just like we have been doing each of the last 5 years, just getting better.
Well, tell me this: the leagues kind of break up a little bit. They had a fifth league, and I've told several people this. I don't know if I was in love with it to begin with, but I think I like it a lot more now than I did at the beginning, and it's got a lot of coaches excited. Just not necessarily you're playing still a lot of the same teams, but just a little more apples to apples, and it doesn't just affect football; it affects all other sports too. So it kind of gets everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and I think it's been underestimated for a long time, the differences between high schools, not just based on population, but also based on the socioeconomics of the community and all of that. And those are big deals that make a real big difference in the sport of football. I think the new alignment really puts everybody with the schools that are like them. And I think that competitive balance is important for for any sport, particularly football, where it can be harder to reach. But I think the conferences, the new alignments are better for everybody.
Well, and just in terms of Class 5 football here in Kansas City, and I can remember not that long ago in Class 5 in general, all across the state, as somebody who votes on rankings, we ranked 10 teams there for a while. There was a couple of years where we were just like, ooh, it's I can almost bring 10 teams out of Kansas City and go.
Right.
There's so much depth there, and I think that says a lot about where your program is and the St. Joe Central is, and just teams that are picking up. There's not, Fort Osage had a great year, made it to the semifinals last year, but they're in a dogfight with Platte County and Green Valley coming up, and all those schools. So it's Class 5 in Kansas City is really competitive.
It is, and there's a lot of good coaches, and there's some growing communities in those Class 5s that have a lot of good community support. And then there's some of us older schools that are making some good rebounds. North Kansas City, Oak Park. I know that St. Joe Central is going to benefit from this new conference alignment. It's going to help them, and they're well coached. It's just I've been a head coach for 17 years now, and there's really, the coaching just gets better every year. There's not a poorly coached team out there anymore.
No doubt about that. Well, Coach, it should be a great season. Good luck, and we appreciate you taking time with us.
All right. Thank you.
Dion Clisso here in the X5 studio from Xfinity Internet. It's powered by Xfinity Internet with this faster speed than a gig. You can power a full house of connected devices all at one time. All right, we are joined now by St. Joe Central coach Reggie Trotter and coach Suburban Red Conference this year, and a good league. The splitting up of the leagues, I didn't know how I'd like it at first, but I really like how it's kind of split the teams out a little bit. Is that exciting for you to kind of your schedule doesn't change a ton, but still see some different teams?
You know what it is. I think we've continued to get more apples to apples as far as what we're what we're dealing with here in Central High School in St. Joe. So I think it's a really good league, and it really pairs well. There's going to be a lot of parity in our league this year.
Well, and for you guys, your team alone, you guys have taken a lot of big steps forward. And now, like you said, a little more parity, a little more teams you'll see that look a lot like you. And you got to be excited. You bring back a lot of good players off a team that was really improving. You've now been there several years after changing head coaches year after year after year there for a while. That stability has grown in there. What have you seen this summer that's got you excited?
We've really kind of bought into each other, and that's something that I wouldn't necessarily say we haven't had that since I've been here, but we've bought into each other a lot more than I remember, and we actually have the talent to match that buy-in. We've done some different things. We kind of thought out of the box a little bit this year. We took our team on a 2-day retreat where we were able to just kind of get away. And the guys were asking me, Coach, are we going to have a walkthrough or anything like that? Nope. Nothing football related at all. We did a lot of different things out there on our little retreat and got to know each other quite a bit more. So when you know who your teammates are a little bit better, it makes it really, really, really easy to fight for them. So I'm really excited about those guys, let alone what they've done on the practice field and in scrimmage situations. They've really bought into each other, and that's been fun to watch.
Offensively, how are you guys going to look, and who you expect to make some big impacts?
We've been fortunate to have the same offensive line coach back for the second year in a row. This is the first time that's happened for us. You can't do anything. You can have all the skilled kids in the world, but if you can't block up front, you can't do anything. So having Coach Olsen back with a group that we have, anchored by Nathan Mincy, is really, really important for us. Our guys that we have back don't have a lot of starting experience, but I really believe this is probably our best offensive line that I've had since I've been here. They're big, physical kids. Again, anchored by Mincy, who's been one of our best players since he stepped on the field for us 2 years ago as a sophomore. So I'm really excited about that group, and that'll lead the way for our returning quarterback, Stone Wetlaufer, who is going to continue to get better. The more protection he has, the less toughness he has to show. Everybody in our league knows how tough Stone is. I mean, hell, he was the third leading rebounder in our basketball conference last year. And he's not a huge kid. You know, he just plays so hard and he's very, very tough. Now I think you're going to get an opportunity to watch him really blossom because I think we're going to be able to protect him a lot more. And that's something that we're really excited about because we have some really nice weapons on the outside. You know, Anthony Vassar and Asher Katakis lead that charge in the air, along with some guys that you'll see and you'll hear their names quite a bit with Titan Chandler, who's a junior, and then two sophomores that really will play big roles for us this year, and Markel Mayfield and Monte Henderson. And that's just when we have the opportunity to spread it out. For the first time in a long time, we've got a back, you know, and then we've got a couple backs, but I think we have a really, really special back in Gabe Fields. He's just a sophomore. He's a big kid, runs really well, very patient, can really run when he gets out in the open field. So those guys will be balanced by those guys. By those guys up front for sure. But I'm really excited about what kind of production we can have with our offense this year.
Defense, what do you like on that side?
Defense, I think we're very athletic in the back end. No question about it. I think Anthony Vassar returning as a first-team all-conference corner for us. Our two backup tailbacks, those guys are really athletic kids, and there's no reason why those guys can't do something else for us. So those guys will be our starting safeties. I'm really excited about those. Macario Barr and Clarence Jackson have done a really good job for us this spring and summer. So I'm really excited about what those guys can do, as well as McCavion Rhodey, who's gotten better at the corner position for us. So those guys there will look to really be athletic and take the ball away. I think those guys can really play, and I'm looking forward to what they can do. Obviously, defensive line, you have to start up there, you know, with those guys. And Nathan Mincy is going to play both ways. He's too good of a football player not to. You know, he's a very, very, very physical kid, very high motor kid. He's going to play defensive end for us this year as well. We're really looking forward to him. Two guys that didn't play a lot last year that had incredible summers, and I'm really excited about those guys. One's a senior, one's a junior. Jackson West is a senior, and the junior is Tashawn Wilson. They'll play inside for us as defensive tackles. There's only one school I think that will have comparable defensive tackles that we have. I really believe that. I think there's going to be a lot of good talent, but I'm really fired up about these two young men. They've played really well this summer, and I'm really excited about those guys for sure. The linebacker position, we returned Brock Williamson, who played really great as a freshman, tore his ACL in basketball season, so he wasn't able to play for us last year. He's a junior, very, very high IQ football-wise, and obviously off the field too, but very, very high football IQ, runs around really well. He's excited. He's going to be a really good player for us, along with Drake Stagner, who's a returning starter for us on the defensive side of the linebacker. And then Daniel Kay, after a really horrific ankle injury last year, where he actually dislocated and broke his ankle in a JV game, came back and is healthy, going to play some linebacker and tight end fullback for us. So I'm looking forward to those three guys. Plus, there's a couple other guys that will factor in as well. So I'm excited about this whole team, honestly.
Well, Coach, it sounds like it's going to be a fantastic season. I'm excited to see how you guys do, how that conference race shakes out. A lot of good teams in that conference. Everybody's kind of on the upswing. So it should be a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking time with us.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
This is Dion Clisso from the Preps KC studio, powered by Xfinity Internet. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi for an ultra-fast and incredibly powerful connection. Here in the Preps KC studios, we are powered by Xfinity. We thank them for everything they do for high school football. And this great picture that you see in the video that you've done is all powered by them. And we bring in Truman coach Robert Stowe. And Coach, your first year as head coach there, second year at Truman. And it's been a difficult kind of run for Truman the last few years, but your numbers are way up. Then that's got to be the first sign right there that things are trending, almost double what you had last year in spots. Is that the first thing that's got you excited about this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, just having more numbers allows us to be able to do more things in practice. Last year, I've been tons of places. I've been in Winnetonka, Lafayette and St. Joe, Kearney, Missouri. I spent a few years up in Clear Lake. All those places, numbers weren't an issue. So creating a scout team, having a fully effective practice wasn't ever anything I really had encountered before. So last year we had to get creative, running some half line stuff instead of full 11 on 11 or 9 on 7. And, this year we can actually get a couple different offensive teams going against a scout team defense and vice versa. And that's only going to we're going to reap the benefits from that in terms of our on-field play. We're able to get more reps and more of a realistic look. So that's the first and foremost thing. And the other thing too is we're a school of 1,500, we need to increase the percentage of the boys and girls walking around this building that want to be a part of this football team and be a part of this turnaround. So I think going from around 50 players last year that we finished with to now we have about 96 on the roster, I think it's a sign that we're doing things the right way and we're heading in the right direction.
How has the summer been? I know a lot of times when a new coach comes in, it's a tough transition, but you're already in the building and kind of knew, you were able to hit the ground running.
Yeah. In comparison to, my peer across town, Mike Rose Ivy, I think he got hired in January, February, and he started doing a lot of work, but again, he wasn't really in the building. For me, I got hired late, but because I was working with Charlie Pugh, we had started all this stuff really early in January, February. So it is a different situation than if I got hired in the last week of May and coming in from a different building. Charlie brought me in for this specific reason to help kind of get the off-field stuff going the right direction. And so we set our sights on that really early in the off season. The biggest thing when we did our exit interviews after last season, there were two main issues. The locker room seemed to be kind of a toxic place. It didn't seem like it was an inviting place. And that makes sense when you look at our numbers. Why would anybody want to be a part of a losing team, especially one that wasn't inviting and potentially wasn't a very friendly place. And so that was kind of ground zero for a lot of our work, was trying to build up the brotherhood and the trust amongst the guys in that locker room. And then after that, accountability, and being consistent with accountability. I think with low numbers with players and low numbers in our coaching staff, I think a lot of coaches on the staff had a lot on their plate. And so certain accountability pieces just kind of fell by the wayside, and the program really was hurt by that. And so, starting in January, February with off-season workouts and whatnot, we really just hammered home, being a good person, being a good teammate, and holding not just themselves accountable, but their teammates as well. That parlayed itself into the summer. This summer, I think we had, our goal was to have 90% attendance. I think we had about 50 guys meet that, when it was all said and done. Maybe about 40, but regardless, more than we had on the roster last year. So that was huge. Yeah. And then together we stepped out into the community and collectively we did over 500 hours of community service, from about, we counted a couple of the basketball games doing concession stands, but that was very minimal in that count. Most of those hours, probably about 475 of those hours were from June on, and that's everybody getting in on that. Our goal was to have every kid, by the end of the football season, have 10 community service hours. And we're about halfway there. So it's very promising because, in a town that really has 4 high schools, coming out the other side of a pandemic, we have to kind of remind people that we're still here. There's a football team on this side of town. We would like their support. It's a two-way street. So we went out and supported them in hopes that maybe they would come back around and support us when we need them as well.
What are you seeing in your team this summer, offensively and defensively, that you like?
Coach Pugh was the defensive coordinator last year. So when losing him, that was my main focus, trying to find a defensive coordinator. And I hired Greg Smith from East High School. He was the head coach and athletic director there for several years. I think he was in KCPS for, 31 was the final count. So he brings a lot of veteran leadership to us on the defensive side of the ball, because frankly, without him, we're an extremely young staff. So we needed that veteran leadership and guidance, and it allows me to kind of take a hands-off approach with defense. It allows me to focus on my guys on offense, and just makes my job a little bit more manageable. So he's been a great help. Offensively, last year it was kind of a hodgepodge. Coach Pugh had a couple different offensive coordinators. I think he even served as one for a little bit. Then I came in. So our main goal was to just try to streamline that. Run-wise, conceptually, there's a lot of stuff that Coach Pugh and I agreed upon, and some stuff that was left over. So the run game hasn't really changed a whole lot. Pass game, we reduced it a little bit. We had a lot of different concepts, and it just didn't really make sense for this level, for our kids and their skill level and where they're at currently, to have that many things in. So we tried to tighten up the package a little bit, just make it easier to install and easier for the kids to understand. And that's pretty much what they were doing on the defensive side as well. I mean, Coach Pugh is a big X's and O's guy. Coach Smith is too, but they're just taking a different approach, trying to allow the kids to play a little bit more freely.
Well, Coach, it sounds like things are moving in the right direction. The numbers are up. Good luck this season. We appreciate you taking time with us.
No, thank you so much. Appreciate it.